lot of the people Nigel puts in his cabinet, not all of them, but a lot of them will not be MPs.
Will they be Lords?
That is the most likely scenario, yes. We don't think it makes sense necessarily for the Minister of Defence to also be doing constituency surgeries about the chlorine level in the local swimming pool.
Other oppositions that are hoping to become government have a very clear shadow cabinet where, from all the positions in cabinet, you can see the person who would take that role if they win an election. Reform doesn't have that yet. When would you see that becoming a thing?
We need the most talented people in the country doing these jobs. We need to stop this crazy rotation where you're doing education for 5 minutes and then you're Secretary of Defence for 3 minutes, and absolutely insanity. You would never see that in any high-functioning organisation of any sort.
So when will we get this full shadow cabinet then?
You will get it close to the general election. I'll tell you, the number of people who are coming forward saying that they want to help reform, either in the background or potentially frontline, is growing all of the time. Some of these are big household names. I'm not going to give you them because I'm not going to betray confidence, but these are incredible. This is galactic level talent that we'd be incredibly proud.
We need a name. Who are these galactic level talent?
That we would be very proud to serve our country. But I'll also say this, as Nigel has said, one of our diagnoses for why talent density is so poor is because inevitably you have a situation where our health secretary is also, for example, a member of parliament. We don't think it makes sense necessarily for the Minister of Defence to also be doing constituency surgeries about the chlorine level in the local swimming pool. Now that's an important issue, but I don't think one person is necessarily best suited to do both of those things. So a lot of our cabinet ministers, a lot of the people Nigel puts in his cabinet, not all of them, but a lot of them will not be MPs.
Will they be Lords?
That is the most likely scenario, yes. So what we will do, again, not all of them, some of them will be MPs, but we want the best possible people. Nigel will present these people to the British people prior to the next general election.
And you don't think there's any democratic issue with you saying some of our key cabinet ministers are going to be people who aren't even
not if we present these people to the British public. I mean, this is the key point. We want to make sure we have a mandate.
For the people. These individuals won't be voted for.
We will make clear who the cabinet positions will actually be. So British people understand what they're going to be voting for. We, unlike Labour, by the way, will actually present to people what our plans are. We've already done that with Operation Restoring Justice years before a general election. So we believe in mandates.
In how parties tend to govern if they get into power, because the vast majority of cabinet ministers are elected MPs. But do you think there's any upper limit on how many Lords you'd have in the cabinet? I mean, could we see a third or a half of those people you put forward as
I wouldn't be
the cabinet
prepared. Look, again, these are decisions for Nigel. I wouldn't be prepared to put any upper limit on that. I think we've got to optimise for the best possible people. And maybe the best possible people don't want to go and do all of the stuff that is involved in being an MP.
Half of your proposed cabinet could be Lords when we get to the election.
Yeah.
Proposed Lords.
I think so. I mean, it's Nigel's decision, but I think so, yeah. When we talk about reform of the civil service and the blob and taking on the blob, one of the reasons why these civil servants have become so powerful is because they say, well, we're the ones who are permanently here.
Can I talk about your own political ambitions on various fronts? Being an MP, is that something you want to do? Do you want to stand at the next election to be an MP?
I think I would, yeah. I think you can have more impact as a Member of Parliament.
You're obviously one of the most senior figures. You're doing a lot of the number crunching. Would you want to be Chancellor in that reform government?
It's going to be down to Nigel. It's going to be down to Nigel, and I'm confident he will choose whoever that person might be.
But you'd like to have that role if
it's something I'm definitely interested in, sure. Like, I built a business. I love Britain. I feel like I have a good understanding of what it takes to create value in the economy. I'm also, I'd say, a reasonably good example of social mobility.
Do you think the two-party political system that's governed Britain for the best part of a century is now dead?
That is certainly was our goal, in no small part because those parties have catastrophically failed the British people. I would argue the result on May the 1st, these weren't opinion polls, they were results at the ballot box, and it was a century-long stranglehold from the two old parties that was decisively, I mean, not just slightly defeated, but absolutely demolished.
So
and
the Labour-Tory two-party dominance is dead now?
I think there's a real, so if you were to ask me my personal view as to where we will end up at the next general election, I think as a result of various factors, I think the most likely electoral result will be a walloping Reform majority, Nigel as the Prime Minister, with the Liberal Democrats as the second largest party by seats.
Got bigger than Labour?
Yes. Labour is going to speed run now what happened to the Tories, which was, again, Tories had a multitude of leaders. They didn't know what they stood for. They were totally divided within their own party. And I think if you look at the polling where they have prompted for your party or their party or whatever it is that the shambles of Corbyn's party will call themselves, it takes it takes no support out of Reform. It takes a very significant chunk out of Labour.
So your assessment of that classic old two-party system is what instead it's over, it's gone?
Decisively.